My name is Roxane Webster.
I'm Keith Alba.
We are with my home team at Keller Williams Advantage Realty.
It's easy for you to say.
Shut up. Welcome to the Honest Hour. Welcome to the Honest Hour, where we are nothing if not honest and genuine.
Absolutely. The goal of the Honest Hour is just bringing tidbits about the real estate market and things outside of the real estate market that may be affecting or could affect the real estate market in the future. And our promise to you is no spin.
Except my chair.
No spin, Rox. Oh, you're ruining
it. I can't help myself now that I cleared the floor with all of the refuse. Today we're going to talk about, here we are in the fall. We're going to talk a little bit about real estate seasonality and some of the slowing we're seeing in the real estate market in the upper Denver Front Range, and whether that is just normal seasonality or if it's the big one. What do you think of that, Keith?
It's a bubble. It's a bubble. No, not at all. Your rates are still ridiculously low. The properties, those are low too. The number of inventories, properties that are being marketed and sold is been down over the last few years. We're still seeing that sort of a piece. I would say the only thing that's really up besides prices is the lack of affordability.
Oh yeah. Colorado is in the big top 10 least affordable places to buy a property right now. And, when we look at affordability, when they look at affordability, they ask yourself, what can your dollar buy you? Right. And in real estate, you could have affordability. It's hard to get your mind wrapped around the idea that a house that right now you're buying for $500,000 at a 3% interest would have a similar payment to a house that you buy for $300,000 with 5% interest. And I just grabbed those numbers. I didn't do the math, but the idea that just that extra 1.5 or 2 points difference in the interest rates allows you so much purchase power for the same exact price, right?
Well, when we're talking, affordability, we'll just put some numbers to it. For the detached single family in property in the Denver metro area, we define the Denver metro area as like the 7 major counties that are out there. So we're not pulling all the stats from the MLS, just the 7 counties. Average sales price, so total up all the sales divided by the number of sales. The average sales price in that area was $682,711. For the attached single family houses, $436,895. Just crazy. If we switch over to the median, right? So dead center in the middle of what was sold in terms of the pricing, $580,000 was the median sales price, and $370,000 was the median sales price in the attached. So staggering numbers that are there.
Just for old lang syne, Keith, I went back and looked at what the average sales price was when you and I joined forces, partner, and became business partners. You want to stab a guess at it?
Almost a decade ago.
Almost a decade ago. Want to take a stab at it?
I would say 375,000.
Try 175,000.
That speaks exactly to the affordability things that we were just discussing, right? Now, over a 10-year period, to see those kinds of numbers jump that significantly is astronomical. In regards to the trends in the market that we're seeing right now, though, it is a little bit of that seasonality. So historically in Colorado, the winter months are the coldest and the least activity. That goes across the board. We see a reduction in the number of properties that are brought to the market. We see a reduction in the number of buyers that are out there, and that affects the number of closings.
We see the days on market increasing a little bit. What's really interesting right now is to see how this market has potty trained everybody. Right? When a seller sees a house that's on the market and survives the weekend without multiple offers, they're immediately saying, oh, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? Right? Likewise, buyers, when they see a property that's been on the market for a week or more, they're asking themselves the same question. What's wrong with it?
Wrong. What is everybody else seeing in this property that I'm not seeing? Right. That's the
right.
issue.
It must have horns, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, at some point, I mean, the number I read nationally, we saw, what was that? 25? No, that's in Colorado. Colorado, 2-year increase in values, 25%. Right, 25%. If you take a look at a graph long term, right, one of the reasons that real estate has always been such a great investment is that it is very predictable, right? It clocks along at 4% trend line, 4% increases in values every year. Now, granted, you're going to have years like the Great Recession where it drops dramatically. You're going to have years like the last 2 years where they go up dramatically. But if the trend line, if that line that travels through the years starts getting much above 4%, we start finding ourselves in an area of for attention, an area to pay attention to.
Area of concern, right? There's definitely a natural phenomenon out there. It's not easy for me to say, right?
But a few consonants among friends.
Right. It talks about the reversion to the mean, right? The mean being the average, that's the standard. So in those times where the Great Recession, where we dropped way down below it, there was that reversion to get back to the mean. We saw the appreciation. Now, we've been appreciating for so many years. When is that reversion to the mean going to come, right? And that's kind of the question. Are we at the front end of it? Potentially, right? But I don't know. We don't have enough data at this point to back it up. If we look at stats through the end of September, active listings were down 27.4% year over year. So we're comparing last year to this year, and we had less number of active listings that hit the market. That translated into a 12.8% reduction in under contracts and 6.1% reduction in closings year over year.
So this is very interesting. We talked about this earlier in an episode that at some point, this cycle of some portion of the sellers who would sell, but they got no place to go, that at some point this was going to start congealing and we'd see that get so restrictive that it would actually start reducing the numbers of houses going under contract. Boy, whole other topic for the Honest Hour another day is that what an engine of the economy the housing market is. And if this contraction of inventory starts to actually freeze the movement in the economy coming from the housing market, what does that look like? Who knows? It's like that movie, The Core, where they blew off some weird weapon and it stopped the core from rotating. So what does it mean for the US or global economy, that the restriction on the housing market, if this continues to reduce the actual closings and movement of real estate?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is 1 month, but I don't know. I guess I'd likened it to say we're seeing an exhale in the market, right? It's starting to just kind of relax a little bit. It's not as big of a feeding frenzy that's out there.
But make no mistakes, it's still the Hunger Games.
It's just less so. Yeah, right. It's not the supercharged Hunger Games. It's still get out there and do what you got to do in order to get into the houses that you want. It's just not as nuts as it's been in the previous months this year. Part of that is seasonality. Part of it may be a little bit of a shift. We don't know. Not too early to tell, I guess, would be the way.
It's too early to tell, though. If you'll see, if you find these Honest Hours so irresistible that you go back a few weeks, you'll see when we talked about foreclosure moratoriums and forbearance moratoriums and a little bit about eviction moratoriums in the last one, that we have several influences that we have not had. We did not have last fall. We last fall had a foreclosure moratorium, we had an eviction moratorium, and we had the beginning of forbearance plans for people who weren't paying their mortgages that now are starting to expire, right? So there are additional influences that don't have me running for the fire escapes at this point, but it's cause for attention, and we'll keep talking about it as it keeps unfolding.
Right. And if you want to hear those upcoming updates and what we think, what we see, the different numbers and stats that we're tracking, all you got to do is hit that subscribe button right down there. Right?
And then hit the little bell for notifications of future material. Please share this with anybody you know, and we'll see you next time.
On the next one. See ya.